Hello, everybody. You have Don McDougle in Costa Rica, the Costa Rica Initiative, and Jacqueline here. Best, you can read our names. It's really easy, so I don't need to repeat it. Well, I guess maybe if you have challenging reading. Um, so we're here to talk about divine abundance. And Don, as always, is just fabulous wealth of information because he's in abundance always.
Yeah, well, we had talked about some ideas or some analogies of this thing, and we talked about this thing called total surrender. And that's kind of where I'd like to pick this up again, is in this place where we're in place of total surrender. And what does that mean? We're born into this world with this idea that we have to control things. If you see me messing around on the table, that's because I'm counting change. In Costa Rica, 20 pounds of change is about $3. So
Okay.
I stack it in piles of 1,000 colones, which is almost $2, and tape it together so that I can keep track of all this change. Part of, there was a guy that once said, I always picked up pennies when I was younger, and I'd always pick up pennies and collect change out of coin returns.
Mm-hmm.
And this guy would always say, "Oh, you just so worried about money." And I said, "No, it's just every time I see a penny or get something out of a coin return, I can say, 'Thank you. This is just another symbol of your abundance.'"
Absolutely.
And so this whole idea of, I was just talking to a guy that lives in West Africa, and he was about this idea. I get this all the time. He's always asking me, "So what are you going to buy me for my birthday? Or what are you going to send me for Christmas?" And I talked to him before, and I told him, "Well, this isn't really about me giving you something for Christmas or your birthday. It's, he read online that I'd been in Texas with my grandsons, and he said, 'Well, I'm your grandson too.'" Anything to try to get something,
Right.
That whole mentality of get, and that's what I teach people, is it's not about getting, it's about giving.
Yes.
And, so we give, we in the family house, myself, we give everything we have every day in some form. So I've spent a lot of time with people online, and going over and over their misery sometimes, and then I have to break through that to allow them to begin to break out of their misery and out of this nightmare that they're living. And we can wake up from this nightmare of delusion that we have to be in control of every little aspect of our life. And when we do that, we open ourselves up to the whole universe being there, backing us up. Incognito is I am. It comes down to this place that I am.
Right.
And so that's really all we really know, is that we exist. And so everything else is just an addition to that we've compiled, and I call that consensus reality. It's we all agree that a tree is a tree, because that way we won't have to, every time we see a tree, redefine it. But in the defining of the tree, then I limit that tree to just being what it is, and I don't see the divine essence in the tree. And so when I look beyond the form of the tree, I can see within it this life force. And that life force that's in that tree is the same life force that runs the whole universe. It's really not separate. It's the same thing. And so when I begin to look at life and things that way, everything is connected to everything. There really is no lines of separation. And we can live in that place where, and how can I judge anybody without judging myself?
Right.
And if I'm angry at somebody, it's really that I'm angry at myself.
Right.
And so when I begin to really understand these things, everything just is in this flow, this divine flow. That little nursery rhyme, row, row, row your boat gently down the stream, is real close to the truth. Because once we get in the flow of the river will take us wherever we need to go. And everything we need to do that will show up for us to do it.
Okay, so let's
yeah, go ahead.
Interrupt on that point here, because there's a few great points that you made that probably could use clarification. But rowing down the boat merrily, people talk about it all the time, going with the flow, right? My experience has been when you go with the flow, there's always a sense, there's always a door that opens, there's always an answer, there's always a solution to whatever you feel, or I feel that there is what is the intention. However, do you encounter any rocks as you're going down the river? Do you get caught in the reeds at all? Is that part of the experience that you encounter something, or is it always just smooth and easy? Because my intention can be smooth and easy, and I can look at the experience as part of the experience, or I can look at those, oh my gosh, I hit the rocks and I'm no longer in the flow.
Well, I don't know that I hear what you're saying. I don't know that I hit the rocks. I've learned to navigate, and the river will take me if I'm not in fear, if I'm in a place of total trust, the flow of the river will always just take me around these things. If I'm struggling, that's when I get in trouble.
Okay.
Yeah, that's when, I say, oh, the river's not going to take me around that big rock. I'm going to crash. Well, daggone it, I usually do. Because that's...
So as long as your intention, right, which is for you, Don, and what you're teaching, is that the universe provides, you you stay present, you're guided around the rock, right? And it literally is, you're going with the flow, just one moment at a time, trusting and believing everything is all prepared and taken care of.
Yeah, no, that's a good way to say it. I put another analogy. I say, I'm a parent, and when my son was young, if I wanted him to go to the store and get a loaf of bread, say, and I'd say, Matt, go to the store and get me a loaf of bread. We need some bread. Well, I wouldn't expect him to just take off running to the store unless he had everything he needed to be able to get the bread. I mean, it wouldn't make any sense for me not to provide him with enough money, or if he was riding a motorcycle, or if he was riding a bicycle, he would have to know where the store was, and those kind of things. So everything that he needed to be able to follow through with the instructions, I would give him, and I would support him in it in every way I could. Now, this analogy of the parent is like the universe. The universe will never ask us to do anything without giving us everything we need to be able to do that, to follow the instructions. It's only when fear comes in that I can get in trouble.
Right.
We learn. This is part of the process of waking up from this nightmare is that we learn to relinquish this delusion of controlling things so that we don't fall into fear. And so a lot of times in my life, I would say, there would be this thing I wanted or needed, felt guided to do, and I wouldn't know how in the hell it would ever work out.
Right.
And I would just sit down and say, okay, well, this is perfect, and I don't know how you're going to work this out. Let's see. And I would just sit there and wait.
Mm-hmm.
And synchronistically, everything would fall into place. The ride, the money, the contact, the situation falls into place without my really trying to make it happen.
Right.
And that's a lot of, we talked a little bit about my book. I'm writing this book, and this is kind of what the book's going to be about, is my experience here in Costa Rica over the last 8+ years of getting from where I came from to where I am now, and how this process of letting go and letting go and letting go. And I tell people, I say, well, sometimes the best thing you can do where you are right now in this whole process is to just say, I trust you the best I can. Help me to trust you fully. I surrender the best I can. Help me to surrender fully. And then breathe. Breathing is so important. Fear takes our breath away a lot of times. And so when we learn to breathe and relax and just be in this place of not having to make anything happen. Even with meditation, people, a lot of times when they first start, they can't sit still long, more than 5 minutes without having to get up and move or do something, with some kind of distraction. I say, well, let's start with 5 minutes. Because the more we give ourselves to this inner guidance that we all have, the easier our life gets.
Mm-hmm.
The less I have to manipulate.
Well, I think I'm surprised you even use that word, manipulate, because I think that word just disappears entirely when you're trusting your inner guidance.
Well, yes, I'm talking about people that haven't got there yet. Are trying to control is about manipulation. The idea that I can control things is manipulation. I'm trying to manipulate the universe and circumstances to fit into my plans instead of me just being in the flow and saying, okay, what's the plan?
Right. I know I usually just presence people to the fact that, each were given this body. We didn't do anything to get this body. We didn't, we just received this body.
Didn't ask for it.
We didn't, right, exactly. And most people, so we received it, and then we received this beautiful, wonderful nature that this whole earth we participate in. So it's about learning to receive what's really present versus thinking that I am going to somehow create or think something, because my ideas they don't come from me anyways. And then that process of being open to receive, you're going with the flow down on the rowboat.
Right. Well, this young man from Africa, he says, well, I don't have anything. I said, well, you're living in a house. And he said, well, I don't own it. But I said, you're still living in a house. It's not about ownership. This whole idea of ownership, too, is another one of these abstract ideas of consensus reality. We really don't own anything either.
Right.
It's loaned to us or given to us to use as we need it. And it's the fear of lack is the holding on to things I no longer need. I love my coffee cup. I've had it for a while. But it's not the last coffee cup.
Right, exactly.
I got this other one, too.
So you work with different ages, right? You work with anybody.
Yeah.
And I know that for me, even starting with my kids when they were little, it was the concept of, we used to just have a giveaway drawer. And it was the idea that everything always flowed. So if they wanted, just to be giveaway when they were done with something, and it would be amazing when they would stick stuff in that giveaway drawer, it would be like almost instantaneously the next day, something unexpectedly would just show up on the doorstep.
Right.
As a brand new gift.
Well, and I've got friends that got, especially women, 100 pairs of shoes. I've got friends that have clothes they haven't worn in a year, but they might need it for something. That kind of thing.
Yeah, I was there 25 years ago. Yep.
And I said, what are you going to do with all that stuff? You can't take it with you. Why don't you give it to some stuff? And we've done that here in Costa Rica. They have they have these houses for women that have been in abusive relationships that are trying to get a new start. And so I would gather things up from people like that were willing to begin to let go of some of that. And we take it to the home. And some of them would give really nice, like, business suits and that kind of stuff, for women.
Yep. Oh yeah.
So that they would be able to go out and get a job and do a job interview and look the part. And so the more we give, the more we have, and it just makes it so simple.
So what is the hardest thing when you are talking to people? Because I totally get it, because that's how I live my life, right? That's is when you say to somebody, give your smile, give your joy, give whatever you have. Do you like Buckminster Fuller, from my understanding, because I didn't know him personally, whatever came in a month, he gave away by the end of the month, and it started again. Mm-hmm. So do you, operate on that, on a daily thing, on a monthly thing? Are you trying to just break even constantly because you're in the flow, or do you it's okay to have a little bit of, savings, etc., for that next project that's coming your way?
Well, when money comes in, mm-hmm. the first thing I say is, what's this for? And if I don't get an answer right away, I put it in the drawer. Okay. Awesome. Because I know that something's going to come up that money came in for. Now a lot of times, and in my old life, I would say, oh, wow, I got an extra $200. Let's go buy a stereo, or let's go buy junk I didn't need,
Right.
And where I live now is I've got everything I need. Mm-hmm. It's really strange. I go to people's house and they say, oh, we're so broke, we're so hungry, we don't have any food. And I go in the house and I say, well, let me make you a meal with the things you have in your cabinet.
Yeah.
And so I can make a nice meal out of what they consider no food.
Right.
And gratitude, I can't get away from that part of this whole thing, is this being in this place of gratitude, total gratitude about everything. Life is a gift. Everything is a gift.
Yeah.
People say, oh, I worked hard for that. No, you didn't. You're working hard was a gift. The ability to work hard was a gift.
Yep.
The ability to go to school and get a degree was a gift.
Everything's a gift. Right. Yeah.
And so we don't really earn anything.
No.
Go ahead.
Sorry, I just wanted to share on that topic of dinner, because that you can make dinner is I don't know how many years ago, maybe it was a lot of years ago, the kids and I and some of their friends had made Christmas dinner for a family that said that they were in need. We didn't meet them, but we'd done that for a few years. And this particular one, we showed up and we brought them everything, and we brought gifts and we brought clothing, and we arrived at the house And talk about I had never seen such a big screen TV, and the stuff that they had in the house. I mean, my kids and their friends had to just look around and go, what possibly did they think that they were in need of? Like, they had so many things that they could have sold to feed themselves if they were really in need of food, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and that's the thing is, it's a lot about priority. This young kid, I've been a Facebook friend with him for maybe a year or so. Mm-hmm. And on his timeline, he's got all this fancy stuff, headsets and different stuff you see in his room when he takes pictures and stuff. And it's like, that's the opposite of divine abundance. Is what do I get? What's in it for me? Mm-hmm. That's the very opposite of the divine abundance of what do I have to give.
Right.
And so we run into that, and people say, "Well, aren't you afraid that people will take advantage of you?" Mm-hmm. And I said, "How can anybody take advantage of me when I'm giving free? If I'm giving it to you, it doesn't really matter what you do with it or what you have or don't have. If I'm guided to give you this 1,000 colonies and change, I'm just following the instructions. What you do with it or how you use it or what your purpose in asking for it or saying you need it is none of my business."
Right.
Now, people that are out to just get, it all catches up with them. I had this one guy that would come to the house every time he was. His big story was he was like I guess they call him boy toy type guy.
Okay.
Very handsome, very tall, very beautiful, very muscular.
Just like you, right? Yeah.
And he'd talk these women that would come to Costa Rica into, let me helping you. And he would run them out of money. And they'd have to go home, some of them. Well, he'd show up to my house when he was between gigs. And, and he would come do some workshops. Mm-hmm. And, he would participate and he would do different things. And that was all his way of thinking he was manipulating himself into a place to stay and 3 meals.
Yeah.
And people say, "Don't you see what he's doing?" I said, "I see exactly what he's doing.
Right.
But I'm going to do it anyway."
Right.
Because what he's really asking for is love.
Yeah.
He's really asking for somebody to accept him for who he is, not what he looks like or not what he can do. And he's God in design, in disguise, is what I tell him. And so I will treat him just as if God walked into my house. And he finally got it. I think. I don't know, but it doesn't really matter. I played my role in his part of waking up to the truth of what he really needs and wants.
That's really beautiful. Can you just share that again? The part, like what you say to the people, repeat it so people get it again. Because here he is. It looks to everyone else that he's taking advantage of you.
Right.
And your response, I believe, the audience needs to hear again.
Well, I say, okay. Well, they said, "Don't you see what he's doing? He's just taking advantage of you, a place to stay and, food, and you just give him everything." And I said, "Well, he's really looking for love."
Right.
That's who he's really looking for. And he manipulates these women to fall in love with him, quote unquote, and gives them a quote good time until they run out of money.
Right.
And then then they get frustrated and run him off. And So, but I knew that. I see it. I tell people it's like I'm sitting up here from a vantage point looking out into the forest, and you're down there lost, screaming. So I know where you are in the forest in your journey to waking up to who you are, and so I can give you little signals to the left,
Right.
go right, next tree,
Yeah.
And so that people can find their way out of this dark forest of the nightmare of the illusion that this world is our home. This isn't home. We're just passing through here.
Just an experience.
Yeah, we're just passing through this experience of humanness, which we put the costume on, we take it off, and that's it. And if we can learn that it's a costume and not take it serious along the way, the better. All the better. So so he would come, and up until I left the Platanillo house, he hasn't visited me since. But I've talked to him a couple times by Facebook or email. And actually, I sent about 25 people this text message that I have in my phone. It said, "You'd make a really good character for a book. I think I'll use you." And a lot of the people I sent that to still had me registered in their phone. A lot of them said, "Who is it?"
Right.
But I just kind of left it open just to, I'll get back with them all at some point. So we need all these characters that are really in that place of getting. And what can we do? How can we do? Well, I don't give every bum on the street money to go buy a bottle of rum. But I will say, hey, come with me and I'll buy you a meal. And if they're really hungry, they'll go with me and eat a meal. Mm-hmm. If they just want to drink, then they'll say, no. I say, okay. And a lot of times I will go into a restaurant and buy a meal and then tell the waitress, this guy's going to come in, he looks like this, da-da-da, and I'm going to give him this receipt for the meal when he comes in, so feed him when he comes in. And I just go back and hand him the receipt. I said, well, yeah, go in that restaurant, see what happens. So it's about being in a place of being open to the guidance in every situation. There's no real set rule about this. You don't give everybody you see on the street $100 or $50, but you're open to that if that's what you need to do, because there's a divine flow in that person's life at that moment, that little bit of money that you give them will open up all kinds of doorways for them to open up to the truth about love and themselves and change their life. And that's what this is really about, is having a changed life. The work I do with people is so that they don't have to keep going around the merry-go-round, repeating the same mistakes over and over and over, thinking they're going to get somewhere when all they're doing is repeating the same mistakes.
That's what they call the definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result.
Yeah, but until I realize what has set me up to think that that's the way to do it, I won't stop. In my own life, my life was like I'd go round and round and round. Okay, I'm all right. I'd wake up and I'd be in the same place. And for me, it was failure in business. And I would create these businesses, and I'd work, and I'd work, and I'd work, and I'd work, and I'd do it different this time, blah, 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 and I'd wake up and I'd be broke again. And I couldn't figure it out until I realized that I was trying to manipulate the world into my way of being, and instead of just being in the world as I was designed to be.
Okay, so I just want to clarify that, because I thought you had sort of an an experience that caused an awakening within yourself. Are you saying that you just all of a sudden figured out that you were in an illusion?
No. No, but there came a time when I tell people I was one of the hardest cases I've known of, because I knew I had the power to do all these things, and I would always have another plan. Every failure, I'd have another plan. And my last drunk, I was a drunk. My last drunk, I came off a motorcycle doing 62 miles an hour on my face with no helmet, and I had my boots on and no shirt, no ID, on a motorcycle I didn't own. I don't even know whose it was or where it came from, and I don't even know where I was when I wrecked. And what that gave me was that was the beginning of the real beginning of the awakening. But that was in 1987. So I was one of those resistors for a long, long time. Always had another plan. And the universe worked with me, so I didn't die. Thank God. And, and so each time I would have to go to a deeper level of surrender, another level of surrender, another level of surrender. Coming to Costa Rica was another level of surrender. I got rid of everything I owned except a backpack, a guitar, $3,000, and a laptop. And I came to a country that I didn't know anybody. I just met a couple people in Texas that had been here and supposedly had property here somewhere, and didn't know the language, didn't know anything about the culture, didn't know anything about colonies, and I came here willing to sleep on the ground if I had to for the next 20 years, if that's what it took. And I came here with this vision of me walking off a cliff backwards with my hands over my head, and everything that was me was staying on top of the mountain, and I was just going to let it all go and go off the cliff. Well, I didn't have a clue what that actually meant, but I found out. There's a quote by a guy. He says, "The price of everything is until we get there." And so we have to let go of all our identities, all our roles, all our attachments to things. We have to reevaluate the value we put on things. And what's really valuable is these lasting God relationships that we create with other people. Yeah. That's the real value of this life that we have. And I can say that I'm one of the most wealthiest men in the world because I have created these loving, intimate God relationships with thousands of people now since I've come to Costa Rica. I had, I think, 369 or 269 friends on Facebook when I got here. And I get friend requests from all over the world every day. And, I connect with people of every culture, every language, every sexual orientation, every situation, circumstance. And I can give them and show them divine love and acceptance regardless of their character defects or their flaws or so. And I don't even see the flaws. I see the divine in them.
Right.
And that's what I focus on when I work with people. I see the divine in you. And you can see that when you begin to see the divine in you, then all this other stuff will go away. All your fear, all your sense of lack, all your fears of not being good enough or pretty enough or sexy enough or smart enough, or all that stuff will go away because you'll realize that you are the divine in disguise. And that you have come here into this existence for a divine purpose. And that's why you're here. Otherwise, why would I be here? I'd rather be in the bliss somewhere, in the ozone or wherever that is, and not have to deal with any of this duality stuff. But here I am, and so I accept exactly where I am, and I'm in the flow. And I don't know where this is all going to go. People say, "Well, what are you going to do next year?" I don't have a clue. We're going to be. I really don't. We've been invited to India. And I tell those people, yeah, well, we'll see how it works out because October isn't here yet. And I know people that have already planned it and booked their tickets and, got places to stay and made all the contacts there, and they'd have it all lined out, 6 months, 8 months ahead. The day I get on the airplane, I know I'm going. Till then, I don't really think about it much. And so there's enough, and this reminds me of a quote of Jesus, sufficient for the day is the evil thereof. There's enough to think about right now that needs my attention. There's enough people, I don't watch the news, I don't keep up with politics, I don't do any of those things. I don't even know, I don't keep holidays. Most of the time I don't even know what day it is until I look at the calendar. But there's enough people in my life right now that I can give my focus and attention to. And that's all I really want to do is help these people wake up to the truth within me.
Absolutely. Because it is within each of us. The truth is always there. And it's just tapping and tuning in and waking up to it. And there you live in your whole new world. You realize it really is abundant and you're going with the flow down the rowboat.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, I tell people the truth and the divine is in there. It's just been covered up with a bunch of bullshit. And the bullshit's our human conditioning that we collected along the way. And that's where we have all our self-judgments and our limiting beliefs and, who am I to be somebody special, or who am I to, who are you not to be? Is my question.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that stuff is ancestral and generational, and it is more apparent than, I believe, the younger generation. Although they have access to so much more information, they also they sense that the world is different. They sense that they're supposed to be joyful. They have that in them already, and so they're being branded by saying, "Oh, you just don't want to do what we want you to do. You want all the blessings." But in there, they realize somewhere there's a switch that still says, "Hey, the world's supposed to be abundant. I'm supposed to be able to live my life in joy." And what I see in the world does not make sense. Yet they haven't quite, they haven't been guided yet. But I totally see this younger generation as far more aware and awake than our generation was.
Yeah, well, yeah, the 20 and 25-year-olds I work with, 18-year-olds, 17-year-olds, and 16-year-olds, are much more awake than I was. I was sex, drugs, and rock and roll, Bring it on. My way of getting out of the world was to escape it through drugs and alcohol and stuff. And, the hippie generation really was the beginning, though, of this idea that there's something wrong with the world as we see it, and there's got to be something more.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that's the beginning of the awakening process. It's when we no longer, it's like this sense of dissatisfaction starts dwelling or churning within us. Something's just not right here. Something doesn't fit. Something's not working. I've done all these things I'm supposed to do, and it doesn't give me that fulfillment that I thought it was going to give me, Even my son, he got his degree and got in the corporate world and bought him a house and, the fancy car and all those things. And then he had all that stuff, and he said, "Dad, I thought this was what it was about, but this is so empty, so meaningless." Mm-hmm. And it's not that you have to get rid of those things; it's that you you realize the value of them is very temporal. You buy a new car, 6 months later, it's an old car. You know,
Yeah.
If the newness wore off. And you can buy those little air fresheners that smell like new cars. You can do different things to try to relive the memory, but it's still an old car. It's not a new car anymore, and the new cars are coming out. Yours is not one of them. And so if we're stuck in that cycle, we're never going to find any kind of completeness or happiness. And it's not in the accumulation of things that brings us peace and joy. It's the letting go of the need to have so much that we can't contain it all, and to get more.
Yeah, I know.
And,
so much truth in what you're saying. It's amazing.
yeah. Well, so I think maybe we ought to wrap this up. I don't know how long we've been talking, but
yeah, I think we have covered a lot to digest, and there is obviously so much more that can be talked about and shared, because this is an ongoing conversation for people to recognize that abundance, divine abundance, is their birthright, and it's all present. They just need to open up and be willing to receive it and let go of all their other illusions of their limitations and their control.
Yeah. Well, that puts it in a couple sentences. Well, I love you, Jacqueline, and I've enjoyed talking with you this morning, and we'll see where all this goes.
All right, Don. I love you too. Mwah.
Bye-bye.
Bye.